Good evening, my dear YouTube viewers. Today also we will continue the types of interview under the sixth category, that is the role, that is non-directive interview. The B part is like this: focused interview. This type of interview has been employed by Mr. Merton, and they want to study the socio-psychological effects of mass media, example radio, TV, cinema. They have enumerated 4 special features focused interview that distinguishes it from other types. Those are mentioned in a given below. Number 1, this type of interview takes place when an interviewer or in a specialized concrete situation. Example, when they have seen a particular film or heard about it in a particular radio broadcast or eyewitnessed of a special social situation. Under these circumstances, they can give information about these things. The second category, this type of interview is possible in those concrete circumstances which have been analyzed beforehand, that is prior to the beginning of an interview. The third category is this type is done on the basis of interview guide, in which the field of inquiry and hypothesis are clearly stated. All these will take place before interview. In an interview of this type of inner feelings under fourth category and emotional attitudes of an interview, vice versa, a given problem or situation are given in a particular attention at a situation. The speciality of the focused interview is that by its means the personal reactions, emotional and intellectual orientation of persons to be interviewed towards the specific that can be studied. Therefore, they focused the interview attention of the background of emotional and intellectual atmosphere of the problem rather than its apparent features. So by watching the cinema or radio, whatever listening, we can understand the background information, not the ephemeral, that is the external phenotypical features is not important, that is apparent features is not important. The peculiar and unique quality of the focused interview is that the interviewee cannot successfully conceal his reactions and sensibilities because the interviewer knows fully well beforehand the reactions and responses likely to be made by an interviews. He has analyzed this before undertaking the interview. The research scholar knows very well, but what type of reaction that we will receive, that for that they will wait. Therefore, as soon as the interviewer tries to dodge or sidetrack the issue, he is pulled up. This type of interview has proved very useful in the study of situation of social tensions particularly. At times, this type of interview serves to verify the hypothesis. Example, it has been observed that the fear complexes which develops in human beings as a result of specialized propaganda affect their thinking and emotional tone, vice versa in that situation. Why? Because tensions in which form, which we are not aware of that. At that time, how the man will be reacted. Here man means respondent. For example, if as a result of concrete propaganda, a particular community thinks of the other community in consistently hostile terms, that is negative terms, the very mention of that community, the presence of its members would ignite hatred in the hearts of the members of other community. So when we are thinking about a community and when we ask the information about the B, automatically they may not like it. Their answers will be in a negative pattern. Next, third one, repeated interview. This type of interview is made when we wish to study the development process of a socio-psychological situation. According to this, the interview is eminently suited to trace the developmental process. So comparison from the past to the present, development of the process, and to determine the factors or attitudes which are behind a given behavioral pattern or situation. Initially, when we are speaking with the respondent, their answers are different. After sometimes some process is going on, they got the confidence, familiarity, then the development has been taken place. In such a way, their answers are qualitatively good, starting from the initial questions. Paul and his associates wants to study this type of methodology to understand the voting behavior of US people in the successive American presidential election long back. Though he may repeated interview is very expensive. Why? Because many times we should do repeatedly the same questions in an alternative order. So much time and energy we should consume for that, or we spend for that. We cannot study the developmental side of an issue by any other method. Only this method we can understand this. Repetition of interview will give the qualitative and the improvement and developmental information from the respondent. By this, once again we will recap the information. Second part in the role of the interview is focused interview. Today we are discussing focused interview and repeated interview. The focused interview is this type of interview has been employed by Mr. Curtin and his associate. They want to study the socio-psychological effects of mass media like the TV, radio, cinema, etc. They have enumerated 4 special features of focused interview in a following way. Number 1, this type of interview takes place when the interviews are in a specialized concrete situation. Example, when they have seen a particular film or heard through radio or particular radio broadcast or the eyewitnesses of the particular social situation. Under these circumstances, their way of giving the information certainly differ. This type of interview is possible in those concrete circumstances which have been analyzed beforehand, that is prior to the beginning of interview. Third category, this interview is done on the basis of an interview guide in which the fields of inquiry and hypothesis are clearly stated. The fourth category, in an interview of this type of inner feelings and emotional attitudes of an interview, vice versa, a given problem or situations are in a given particular attention. Then the speciality of the focused interview is that by its means the personal reactions, emotional presentations or exploration and intellectual orientation of the persons to be interviewed towards the specific issues which has been already studied. Therefore, the focused interview focuses attention on the background of emotional and intellectual atmosphere of the problem rather than its apparent features. When we ask the questions, their external features will not give the real information, facts. Their emotions and intellectual answers are the real facts. The peculiar and unique quality of the focused interview is that the interviewee cannot successfully conceal his reaction and sensibilities because an interviewer knows fully well beforehand the reactions. The research scholars knows very well about the what type of answers that we are getting from the respondent. So that is that response is likely to be made by an interviews at the time of interview. He has analyzed this before undertaking the interview. By that means he understood before the interview itself. Therefore, as soon as interviewer tries to dodge or sidetrack the issue, he is pulled up. By mistake, the respondent may be give the answers in a side track in another mode. Again, he will bring him back to the regular track. This type of interview has proved very useful in the study of situations of social tensions. At times, this type of interview serves to verify the hypothesis. So, when we are bringing back to the normal track, our hypothesis we can easily analyze it. For example, it has been observed that the fear complexes which develops in human beings as a result of specialized propaganda affect their thinking and emotional tone, vice versa their situations. For example, if as a result of concrete propaganda, a particular community thinks of the other community inconsistently hostile terms. When we ask the questions about the A community to B community to A, no, but two communities give the same answer, similar answers. Opposite answers are the hostile answers they will give for us in the presence of its members. That would ignite the hatred in the hearts of the members of other communities, that develop the different opinions and the conflicts too. And the second category of the interview is repeated interview. This type of interview is made when we wish to study the developmental process of socio-psychological situation. When we ask the questions initially for this respondent, at that time starting itself he has some fear, shyness. As time goes on, the process is going on, time is moving on, automatically he has the confidence and relief psychologically, and his some development has been taken, say, and with confidently he will give the answers. So that in that way we want to know the developmental process in a socio-psychological situation. Mrs. Young is also noticed at the time of interview. They traced the developmental process and to determine the factors or attitudes which are behind a given behavioral pattern or a situation. Paul and his associates also done the same thing while they want to study the voting behavior of US people during their American presidential elections. Though the repeated interview is very expensive, why? Because many times we are going and asking if that by changing their words or by changing their attitude, the same question. So time is consumed more and energy we should spend more. So by that we cannot study the developmental side of an issue by any other method. So only this repeated interviews will give the developmental process, that is the progress of their answers, we can observe it. In no other method we can understand the facts in a progressive pattern. By this, today's lecture is completed. This is Bindu taking leave from the YouTube platform. If possible, please go through and do subscribe. Good day and good night.